Hey, you've tuned into T.C. McCarthy, the most handsome and entertaining science fiction author on video. Those of you who watch this channel know that I'm a fan of Traveler, the role-playing game, and that I'm kind of a geek when it comes to hobbies associated with it. This episode, I'm going to cover some of the figures that I've painted in the past and show you basically a little bit of my collection. In future episodes, I hope to basically give you some techniques and show you some tricks. Hey, you're watching T.C. McCarthy, the most handsome and entertaining science fiction author on the planet. At least on video, or maybe just in my mind. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and talk about my Traveler figure collection. Now, listen, those of you who played Traveler since it was first created, I don't know, back in the 80s or whenever it was, know that there were several lines of figures back then. Grenadier did some 25 millimeter figures. Martian Metals did some 15 millimeter figures. I think Raul Partha even got in the game and did some figures for the Traveler role-playing game system. I lost all of those. I used to have so many of them, but I was a kid and I didn't take care of it all, and I think my mom threw them away at some point, so I no longer have any of those things. What I have to do today, those figures aren't created anymore, the companies don't exist. What I have to do today is basically search and find existing 15 millimeter science fiction figures for some other game system and adapt them for the Traveler game system. And today what I'm going to go over with you are some figures that are fantastic from a company, I believe in the southern United States, called Rebel Minis. Now, there are two sets of figures that I'm going to go over here, and then at the end, I'm going to preview a third set that I'm in the process of painting right now. And once this video is finished, I'm going to set up my camera at some point and go over the process I use to paint figures like this in 15 millimeter scale. It's fairly taxing and time consuming, but it's not nearly as difficult as painting 135 scale, military figures or 25 millimeter figures or anything like that. These are so small you can get away with a lot of shortcuts. So anyway, let's get going to the collection. Okay, so this first line of figures, like I said, is Rebel Minis, and these are not science fiction figures at all. This is Rebel Minis. They used to do a line. I don't know if they put these out anymore, but these are SAS Commandos, an assault group. So these are British Special Forces modern day, and they're in gas masks and what looks like ballistic vests. So what I did here was basically treat them as some sort of military unit that has been assigned to a world that maybe has a corrosive atmosphere or something like that. So they're in combat environment suits with cloth armor, that sort of thing. And armed with the armaments I put on these guys. One is a sniper rifle for sure. Several of them have laser pistols. Several have laser rifles. Then there are some Gauss rifles. But really what we're talking about are, modern day armaments that I had to convert using small pieces of wire and anything else I had at my disposal. Now, one of the interesting things about this particular unit that I put together, and I have enough, maybe I would call it like a undersized company, maybe just a couple of platoons. But one of the interesting things that I tried to do here is, you can see there's a map box. One of these stands has a map box, and I basically printed a map on clear plastic using an inkjet printer, and kind of, bootlegged my own kind of version of the map box. Now, some of the old Traveler sets come with a map box, but you would have to actually paint the map on it. And I tried that multiple times. And let me tell you, I'm not bad at painting, but it always came out looking amateurish, and I've never seen it look good. So I prefer to do my own map boxes this way. Another thing that you'll notice is on the far right of some of these pictures, depending on which one we're looking at right now. From the back, it's on the far left, but when we're looking at the pictures on the far right, you can see a holdover from Martian Metals. There is a droid there. There's a robot that came in one of the Martian Metals packages of robots. I only have 2 left. That is one little droid that's hovering off the ground, connected by a cable directly into the brain of one of these soldiers. And so the idea there was that is a battle computer. That's a mobile battle computer in the form of a droid. Painting these things, primarily orange with some tans and browns and some black for equipment, and maybe some clear red gloss paint for the eyepieces on the gas mask goggles. Now, this was not a one coat and done job. This took a lot of time. This is several coats of orange paint and tan paint, etc., where basically you start off with a medium orange, then you wash that with a dark red or dark brown, and follow that up with another coat of medium orange, because now the crevices are very, very dark, and the medium orange brings you back to the original color, and then you paint over that with a very light orange so that you get that faded, worn, and used look. I also varied the orange shades on some of these, so it looks like some uniforms have been maybe a different version or a different issue. So you get some variation, and then of course you have shoulder patches, etc. I really like these guys. Never used them in a game or anything like that, but I like the way they turned out. Another line of figures from Rebel Minis. These are mercenaries, Death's Head mercenaries to be more accurate, and I have converted these into basically. I'm treating these as Jordani troops, right? So I haven't put together any sheets giving them their technical capabilities or anything like that. But of course, some of these would have psionic powers. And what we're looking at here is battle dress. So we're above tech level 10 here. I haven't really zeroed in on the tech level yet. But you've got troopers armed with Gauss rifles, grenade launchers, laser rifles, plasma guns, those sorts of things. So I love this set, and painting it was very, very difficult. My only critique of it is basically I don't think it comes with enough variation in poses. Some of them are very similar, and some of the castings, when you look at Rebel Minis, a lot of the castings come with lead flash that you have to clean up. So cleanup on these guys can be difficult, and I find that to be typical of Rebel Minis, but in general, the castings are awesome. Now, these ones were also a difficult one to paint, and you would think it would be easy because it was just white. White is one of the most difficult colors to work with. I'm telling you that right now. The base color of these figures was not white. It was a more creamy bone colored that I then layered over multiple layers of more and more white and light colored paint until pure white was the final layer that I put on there. So that was actually very time consuming. You can tell at some point in there I did a wash of dark brown for the crevices. I tried black at one point, but it didn't look right. I was trying to get that stormtrooper look, and it didn't look right. Now, the face plates of these, I took a lot of time on. What you're looking at here is a glaze process where I started with a light yellow, and then I basically I put together a glaze of orange. And so a glaze is basically a very, very thinned layer of paint. I put maybe, 30, 40, or 50 layers of orange, progressively darker orange toward the base of the face mask until it became a dark, dark orange brown at the bottom. And then I put over that maybe 10 layers of future floor polish, basically clear acrylic, to get a look like there was actually a plate of glass forming that particular faceplate. And I really, really like the effect. Some of them it didn't turn out so well, but in others it looks great. This is a light gravity tank with a plasma cannon. Now, I created this one from scratch using kit parts from other models that I had built and finished, and there were leftovers, pieces of wire, but primarily I sculpted it out of milliput, which is a kind of modeler's putty that it's really easy to work with. And then once it hardens into a rock, and it's super solid. Originally, I was going for the look on the cover of the Striker rule set, right? Where, the Striker rules has that light gravity tank on the cover, and it has all smooth edges and sharp edges and stuff. But I was not happy with the end result of my sculpting effort. And so it occurred to me I could put on some sort of coating that looked like reactive armor or ablative armor. And so that's what I did. I rolled out a thin sheet of milliput and cut it into precise squares, glued those on, and then proceeded with doing a kind of desert scheme for the paint job. And that particular desert scheme I put on I have a very nice airbrush, Iwata airbrush, and I used that for the application. And these are Tamiya colors that I use to paint my tank. All my tanks I paint with Tamiya colors. Tamiya is the best as far as I'm concerned. Not necessarily for figures, for miniature figures, but for tanks and vehicles, Tamiya is awesome. This is what I'm going to be working on in the future. There are two different figure sets here. The ones in the middle that are already primed green, those are Rebel Minis. Those are the Earth Force, and I have a very large company-sized unit of those that I'm getting ready to paint. Maybe two companies, I'm not sure yet. And I started off trying to paint them in a green color scheme, camouflage. That didn't work. It just didn't look right to me. So I'm trying different color schemes right now, and I'm going to put together a video that goes through the entire process to show you how I do it. Now, those silver ones, oh my gosh, those silver ones are not Rebel Minis. So I'm going to cover those in a future episode as well. But those are, if you look at this shot from the manufacturer's page, those are Blue Moon Orion Troopers or Orion Infantry, I can't remember. And those figures are awesome. I cannot wait to paint those. They're really cool. They would look like high-tech level Imperial troops, Imperial Marines, and I think that's how I'm going to treat them. And I can't wait to get going on those guys. Those are just fantastic figures. Now, I really miss some of the old Traveler miniatures that you really can't find anymore. Someone told me to go to the RAFM, RAFM website to look and see if you could find them there. And you can find bits and pieces of the old Traveler figures, but not everything. And like, for example, I remember buying this box set. I think I bought 2 of them, Imperial Marines. I no longer have these, and it really bugs me. I wish to God I had kept better care of my miniatures back in the day. But I remember buying these and just loving them. And the cover art, you know, you could look at the cover art forever. It was just fantastic. Now it looks cheesy a little bit, but back then I fell in love with this stuff. I had this tank, the Imperial Gravity tank. I think I still have it somewhere, and I'm gonna keep scrounging until I find it. But this thing is heavy, and it was really cumbersome to put together. I couldn't get the pieces to stick together and stay glued. And the stands that come with it to keep it off the ground, I think were a little bit, they don't look very good. So I would have to do my own custom stand that's not very visible. But this thing is just a really, really nice piece of gear. I hope I can find it because that one was actually very, very expensive back in the day. And then this is my box set. So you can see the corners are really worn. This is my rules for doing wargaming with Traveler miniatures. That's the gravity tank that I was talking about earlier in the background there. And it's well used, but well loved. And this is one of my favorite sets of rules. Very complex, very complicated. Definitely need a referee, I think, when you try and play this rule set. And it gets into very deep, a lot of detail in different things you can do militarily. I just love it. I'm really glad that I kept that and still have that. And then here's the box set for Jodani troops I used to have. These were really well crafted. I loved these things. They're in battle dress. They look weird, almost like insects. And one of my books, Chimera, I actually used this model, or this picture here was kind of my inspiration for the main character's combat suit. So I really miss this box set as well. And last but not least, somewhere along the line, I bought Striker 2. Have not used this yet. I don't know if this was an attempt to simplify the Striker rules or what, but I definitely intend to sit down and take a read of this and see what's changed from the original Striker, and maybe I'll move on to using this rule set. I don't know. But anyway, that's basically a small subset of the figures I have. I don't have any of my original Striker or Traveler figures. I'm basically converting new current, being produced today science fiction figure sets for use with Traveler, which really isn't that hard to do. So that was my review of Rebel Minis figures, more or less. Next time I'm going to move on to Blue Moon, which are fantastic, and then eventually I'll get to my Coruscant figures. So I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks for watching this episode. I hope you enjoyed taking a look at my small portion of my collection, and I'll get going on that video that I'm promising you, basically a look at how to paint these kinds of figures and transmission. Hey, thanks for watching. This is TC McCarthy, the most handsome, eclectic, and entertaining science fiction author on video. Once again, take a look at my books. The links are below in the description. Buy them. Pre-order Tyger Burning right now. It'll help me out a lot with sales and getting on the bestsellers lists. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Subscribe to the channel, and please, please, please hit that little bell icon as well. YouTube has made it very difficult for you, the viewer, to get updates anytime I do a video. So please hit that bell icon and you will get notified. Thanks again. See you soon.